And welcome back, everyone, to another RLT Pivot podcast. I am so glad that you could join me once again. Dan is unable to join us today, and we are looking forward to having him back with us next week. Wish him well today, and hopefully he's having a blast in whatever he's doing. But I do have an amazing guest with me today, Mr. Jonny Guarco. You guys have all seen and heard from him before, and I am really privileged to have him here once again. Jonny, how are you?
Awesome, Trace. Awesome. Thank you so much. This is like such a great thing. I love being with you any time of day. So just being around you, you're just such a positive influence. So thanks for having me back.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Thanks, Jonny. Now, you have some great big news. I mean, you just recently retired. Is that correct?
Whew. Gives me goosebumps. Yes, just retired from my federal job.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's just recap. What exactly did you do?
Okay. I spent 23 years in the Marine Corps, as you know. I retired from the Marine Corps in 2015. And then actually I was in the reserves. It's very complicated. When you're in the reserves, you do active duty time, you're in the reserves, you're back to active duty. But I actually retired off of active duty from the reserves. And then I actually moved right from my military job into a federal civilian job, doing the same thing. So that was great. So I actually am blessed with 2 retirements. I have not only my Marine Corps retirement, but now I have my federal retirement. So spent 23 years in the Marine Corps, spent about 12 years in my federal job. So 30 plus years serving my country. I'm good, ready to move on and be free.
That's awesome. Well, thank you for your service, by the way, because I think that
Thank you very much.
what you do is amazing.
Thank you.
I guess the biggest question that I'd like to ask is, you know, retirement can be scary. And a lot of people that I know anyway aren't really prepared for retirement. So, what are some of the things that you have done to prepare yourself for this moment? And maybe what would you have done differently as well? If you want to touch on either of those.
Whew. Could talk all day about that.
That's good.
You know, I heard one time, and it's like stuck in my head, probably for the good. But when you think about it, and I know a lot of people in a job don't like to hear this, but retirement has nothing to do with time, right? It has everything to do with money. And you have to understand what kind of life you want to live once you retire. If you're happy living off of, whatever that is, a half, maybe a quarter of what you were making while you're working, then I guess retirement's okay. But when I heard that, I said, holy cow. And then, the whole thing about the baby boomers and Social Security going away. And so I've never, ever, ever thought about relying on Social Security. I actually, I may never even take my Social Security. I may just leave it to my wife and kids, because I understand they get the benefit if you go before them. But here's the key. The key is having enough money to live the life and to achieve the dreams that you have. So if you're good with just living off of, like I say, partial of what you were making when you're working full time, that's fine. But that's never, ever been close to my goal. My goal is to do too many big things that are going to take a lot of money. And I've put into place, including trading, I have about 7 income streams right now. And that's the key for anybody who's listening. If you're in your 20s and 30s and 40s, you are in an awesome place to be, because you can start putting all those income streams into play right now. Start planning them, start doing them. I mean, I'm talking about, it doesn't matter if you're selling t-shirts, and making an extra $500 a month or something like that. You're going to pay your car bills and your gas bill, right? Well, maybe not now, but yeah, just get as many income streams as you can. And then that will determine, the money will determine when you can retire or when you cannot retire. So that's the biggest thing. And then you got to have a nest egg. You got to have that, that money to be able to fall back on, to be able to pay your bills and still live a great life. So, there's that savings investing that will continue all of my life as long as my brain will allow me to do it. Does that make sense though?
Absolutely. And I love that retirement is about money, not time. Because so many people think, well, when I hit a certain age, I'll just retire. And they don't think about the money part. They just think about once I put in the time, I can retire. Now, you mentioned that you've got 7 streams of income.
Yeah.
Now, are many of those passive incomes, or how much of them are taking your time to do?
Um, Really, the only one that's taking my time is trading.
Mm.
But, I can't call that a job, that's for sure. I mean, that's the love of my life right now, besides my wife and family. But yeah, I mean, trading to me isn't a job, but it takes active participation, right? It's a perishable skill that unless you're doing it all the time like we do during day trading, I mean, you need to stay up on that. So I not only do I do that because I love to do that and I love the money that we receive from it, but it keeps my mind active. I don't want to be one of those people that retire and then you go into this decline, right? You got to stay active physically. You got to stay active, on your diet, that whole health thing. I mean, life is all about having your health first. If you don't have your health, then it's very difficult to love your life from there, right?
Mhm.
So that's number one, is taking care of myself. But yeah, I mean, trading, it's achieving things for me. Besides the money, it's keeping me my brain active, so I can stay in the game and I hope live a long, long time from here.
Yeah, retirement should not be the climax of your story. Absolutely. Totally get
Great. I
that.
love that. I love that.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm getting from you is that you've spent your career while you had secured employment putting into place passive sources of income that can replace your current income, giving you the lifestyle and ability to maintain the lifestyle that you currently have, want, and dream of, and freeing up your time. And then now you're able to do the things that you want to do, love to do, and would do for free, even if if no one paid you. That's basically what I'm
Right.
hearing from you. So I
Absolutely. Yeah.
I
I
think
didn't
that's
really
great.
answer your question, but that's spot on. I mean, all my income streams, I think, are passive except for trading right now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Now, is there anything that you could have done a little differently in your preparation, just in retrospect, as a maybe tips or tricks for anybody that's looking to start out right now and plan for the retirement?
That's a great question. Thank goodness I heard wherever I heard that about, retirement doesn't take time. It's about money. So that was the catalyst that started everything for me, saying, okay, we gotta look into businesses and other things to help generate those income streams. But one of the biggest things, Tracy, is, and it's so hard when you're young, it's that savings.
Mm.
I mean, and when I say savings, I'm talking about investing. Really, it's I tell my kids, starting day one, like my son, my 15-year-old just started his first job, right? And I'm like, Vaughn, from day one, start saving 10% out of every single paycheck that you get. And don't ever drop below 10%. As a matter of fact, increase it to 15%, when you can. So to answer your question is, when you're younger, we all know about compound interest, right? When you're younger, if you can get your act together and understand the importance of not spending every single dime that you make. And as a matter of fact, most generations, I think, like the credit card, and they like to actually spend more than they make, which is just all ass backwards, excuse my language. Just think, if I would have put into place what I know now back when I was 20, 30, or 40. I mean, Jiminy Christmas, you got to start young. If you want to live free at an early age, you got to start young. And it takes, a lot of maturity at a young age to understand that. But when you start getting into your upper 20s and 30s and 40s, there's no reason why you shouldn't understand that. There's no reason why you should live beyond your limits, because if you care about your life and your family and you want to live to 100 plus like I do, Tracy, we're going to ski at Whistler when I'm 100 years old. So just I'll set that seed. But yeah, it's about starting young. Sorry to go down a rabbit hole, but if I could, just explain to younger generations how important that is.
Yeah.
If you really want to live a great life and be free when you get not too old to enjoy it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. Now, question for you. How old do you think you were? When do you remember having a perspective of time that was a little bit more realistic and appropriate and appreciative, I guess? Because I
Wow.
think a lot of younger people right now, they look and they use the excuse, well, I have time, I have time, I have time. And that causes people to procrastinate too long, I think. So
Yes.
at what age do you think that you were before you really got it and started to have an appreciation for time and how valuable that asset is?
You got to embarrass me like this? Because, Jonny, I purposely never want to grow up. So, I pride myself on, never growing to my age. But no, it's a great question. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit on the slow side. I'm a little bit of a Rambo. That it's the wrong question to ask this guy right here, because I just love life a lot, right? And I have never paid attention to that thought until I heard that one day, like, hey, dude, it doesn't take time, it takes money. And I started thinking about that. But, a realistic age, think, why can't my sons and my daughter, she's just turned 10, she's already hearing about it. Why can't they start right off the bat and say, you know what, I'm going to listen to daddy, because he just spent, 47 years in the workforce. I started working when I was 15. That was my first job. Think, Trace, would I even be here right now if I started saving 10% of every paycheck that I had from the day that I started pumping gas at an Exxon gas station in Bethesda, Maryland? You know what I mean?
Yeah, probably not, because I have a feeling you'd be in a circle that's well above mine.
So, that's really a hard question. I just tell everybody, if you're ever going to listen to Jonny, listen to this.
Yeah.
Your health, number one, uno, because you can't take care of anybody unless you can, take care of yourself, right? If you're not healthy, if you're struggling with health, if you, have a life full of no exercise and a crappy diet, then you're going to struggle all your life, most likely, unless you're have these super genes. But you got to take care of yourself. And then once you take care of yourself, there's no reason in the world why you can't live, below your means, right? And sacrifice a little bit and put some money away and think about the future. Because, Trace, think about our younger generation. I tell my daughter all the time, I'm like, girlfriend, you're going to be able to live to your 125, and just put yourself in the position now and try to understand what I'm saying. Please take care of yourself, right? And think about the future and think about what I'm saying about money and saving and investing, because she already has an interactive broker's account at 10 years old. Gosh, I wish I had an interactive broker's account when I was 10 years old, all my kids do. So,
yeah. Well, you know what, Johnny, I love your answer, and I'll tell you why, because you may think that you're not a great representative or a good person to ask the question to, but I think you're the perfect person to ask the question to, because it proves two things. Number one, you're not too old to start. Okay, so you can get that recognition and you can make a difference right now. And as Johnny has put it, he started late, but he's turned it around. He's gotten to a point where he is now getting to the place where he can start heading for his dreams, and that's great. But in the same token, there's a lesson to be learned, and that is it would have been a lot easier had he learned that lesson earlier. Absolutely. And then the third thing that I really love is that you've started your kids at an early age, indoctrinating them into understanding time, appreciating time, and the value of money. And I think that's extremely important. You are a living example for your children, and because of that, your children are going to have a much easier time going forward. And it starts with us, people. So we want to make some changes in life. We got to start with ourselves being good representatives. So I love what you're saying, Jonny.
Thank
Now,
you.
I want to take it to the military because you are you're an ex-military, retired military,
Yes.
and you have a unique perspective on that. And I know that there are a lot of military individuals that, you know, they may have a short span for employment, and then they have to transition into something different, and their retirement may come a lot earlier in age, and they have to plan for a much longer time to take care of themselves. What are some of the things that you would recommend or suggest to your military um, people to do?
Yeah. I talk about this quite often when I do interviews with people, and I always ask them, "Hey, if you're going to tell a service member something today about finances, what would you tell them?" And really across the board, and they're mostly from older people, right? They're from usually people that have spent, 10, 15, 20 years plus in the military that I'm interviewing, right? And they really say pretty much all the same thing. And they said, kind of what we were just talking about knowing, what to do. Because you don't think about the future financially when you're 20, you
Mhm.
know. I wasn't thinking about it really until my late 30s, maybe if I was lucky. But think about the benefits that the military have. They, especially today, because of attrition, the wars and COVID and a lot of other things that are going on, not only in our nation, but our world. There's a lot of attrition, right? But a service member today can get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $60,000 to sign up for another 4 years. It's like a reenlistment bonus, or some specialties like doctors or pilots, right? They get an incentive where they get a big lump of money, and in order for them to stay in the service for X amount of years. So Tracy, think if somebody gave you $50,000, said, "Trace, here you go, girl. Thank you for staying with us," right? I know exactly what you would do with that money. You'd make that money work for itself instead of going out and buying, a new Corvette, or, whatever. Our young people today, they all this glitz and glamour everywhere around us. There's guys, they want to go out and buy a new gun, drive a new brand car, new Corvette. Those things are so cool. And wow, I got $50,000 in my pocket. So they'll go out and they'll spend $50,000 on a new car, but still owe another probably 30,000, right?
Mhm.
And they're in debt.
Mhm.
And they're figuring, okay, the money that I'm making in the military, I gotta use to pay these big bills that I have.
Mhm.
Well, we talk about it all the time, and I know exactly what we're talking about. If you got a big lump sum of money for reenlistment bonus, or if you're deployed overseas and you get your month's salary tax free, take that money, Jiminy Christmas, and invest it. If you love Apple phones, go up, buy Apple stock, right? Why not buy stock and invest in things? And it doesn't have to be just in stock. It could be in bonds. It could be in crypto. It can be in all kinds of investments, right? Buy assets and let that money work for you, and then turn around and sell them, and you get to use that money to buy whatever you want. It's
Mhm.
a no lose proposition, and nobody's telling our young service members about that.
Mhm.
Nobody is doing that. So that's what I want to bring to the fight. These young service members that don't have a clue even about their thrift savings plan. Here's one thing, and they've changed the rules, so I don't know the exact rule, but when I was in service, the government would match up to 5% into your thrift savings plan, which is your 401k in the military, right? I heard a lot of people say, I'm just gonna probably put in like 1% or 2%. Why in the world would you do that when the government is saying, hey, if you put in 5% of your salary, we'll match 5%? You, people are leaving money on the table
It's free money.
because they're not educated. There's nobody out there teaching them.
Mhm.
And that's what I want to do. I want to help as many service members, open their eyes to the world of, financial freedom, which includes everything from savings to investing to living below your means to getting to that day that you can retire and not worry about money anymore.
Mhm. Yeah, it's the lack of education, it's the feeling invincible and like time will always be there for you. There's a multitude of reasons that keep our young people and our young service people from really planning for their future. And yeah, that short-term reward in exchange for long-term gains or long-term rewards, it's just an oversight. And yeah, but if people want to reach out to you, because you work with these people, is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
How can they get in touch with you?
Any day of the week, you can write me an email and I'll respond to you as soon as I get it. They can reach me at Jonny, JONNY, at reallifetrading.com. Real Life Trading is all one word, as you know.
That's awesome, and I'll put the link in the description below so people can gain your email that way.
Thank you.
Now, that's all awesome. So now that you've retired, okay, any tips on making that transition now that you've actually done it? Is there something that you're learning that you wish you knew that you wish you could have help with that you don't quite know how to maneuver through right now? Is there what's in the future for Jonny now?
Yeah. Wow. That's a deep question, because just don't think that you can just quit working one day and everything is going to be fine, because life continues, right?
Mhm.
And it's going to be all about you, about the individual, because you're going to make or break the rest of your life, whatever it's going to be, because you're not going to have a boss back here telling you got to do this and you got to do that, right? I'm constantly still looking for assets to buy to continue building my portfolio. But here, Trace, here's the number one thing that I hear all the time, hear and see. A lot of people don't even talk about it, because a lot of people like start trading, right? And they start, um, ending up with a month, a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there. And then they say, hey, I can increase my risk and make tenfold of that. Well, it goes a little bit beyond that, right? There's a lot behind increasing risk with money, because money plays with people's heads all in a different way than nothing else ever does in this universe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to get ready. But my mantra for me at 62 years old is the big G word, like the Jonny Guarco word, and that's growth, personal growth. You got to continue to grow. Don't think that you're going to be able to take off your suit or, your Aloha shirt and say, I'm retired. Here's life. Where's life? What am I going to do now? You're in charge of you, and you need to make a plan going forward about what you're going to do. Now, here's what I was going to say is, here's the biggest mistake that people make. And this is what I talk about, income streams. Don't think that all of a sudden that you can quit working and then maybe just rely on trading as your income to pay your bills. Because we all know, Trace, we're all professional traders here. We all know we do have bad months. But what happens is, unfortunately, a lot of people, they don't think about, okay, I need to have some money stashed off on the side for a rainy day. Like maybe if I'm not doing very well for a month or two, or maybe if my gutters fall off my house, or, I get flooded and I have to replace all kinds of things, or my car breaks, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because since I have retired, I can't even tell you how many things have broken and, created something that needs my attention and money.
Yeah.
So just get ready for all that. Don't think that, just because you say I quit doesn't mean that life isn't going to continue, because life continues, and sometimes tenfold once
Mm.
you retire.
Yeah, when it rains, it pours, hey? What is the Jonny Guarco recommended saving ratio? Is it
Um,
3 months, 6
yeah,
months?
yeah. I think it depends a lot. Well, it depends on a lot where you live, i.e., for me to buy a gallon of milk, it's $6, right?
Mhm.
We went to the grocery store the other day and bought a quarter of what we normally buy at a shopping visit, and it was like 200 something dollars. But
Mm.
to answer your question, if you really want to be comfortable, you better have 6 months of money that can hold you over for
Mhm.
crisis. Because what happens if, your dog gets run over
Mhm.
and your dog has to have an operation or something like that. But
Mhm.
I think 6 months is a very comfortable position. If you're like me though, right? I'm tired of flying coach. Johnny doesn't fly coach anymore. So my plane tickets to the mainland
Mm.
went from like $800 to $2,500 because I'm flying, either premium economy or business now. So it depends on your lifestyle. If you
Mhm.
don't want to go backwards, if you want to continue living the life that you've dreamed of, you better have at least 6 months worth of money stashed away when you retire.
Mhm. And that 6 months doesn't mean you put the foot and take it off the gas pedal. That's 6
Right.
months and you keep on working and you maintain that 6 months consistently. So, no,
Exactly.
absolutely. I
Yeah.
think that's great advice.
Yeah.
Johnny, if there was anything that you could offer to our listeners right now for them to get started or get one step closer to retirement, what could they do right this minute to get started? What would you recommend?
Yeah, that's like, we're at the starting line and you're ready to take off. But
Mhm.
one of the biggest things that people don't understand about our real life trading community is Jiminy Christmas. I have never been surrounded by more professional, positive go-getters in my
Mm.
life.
So true.
And I learned a long time ago, even because my parents actually even taught me this before Jeremy Newsom reminded me of it several years way back. But if you want to succeed in life, then why not surround yourself with people that are doing exactly what you want to do?
So true. Yep, it is so true. Your network is your net worth, right? We've heard
Yeah.
that many, many,
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah. I don't use that too often. I mean, it's a great expression, but um, people, we're a company just like any other company, and people, well, yeah, sure, he's just saying that and this and that, but go look at our 4.9 plus reviews on Trustpilot. I
Mhm.
mean, you cannot be on the RLT staff without being somebody of very high morals and values and everything that Jeremy Newsom is. And
Mhm.
so to answer your question is, that is such a huge asset, Trace. As you know, we have unbelievable professionals and they all specialize in different things,
Mhm.
right? You're brilliant at your own things. Thomas Wong is brilliant at his own. Jeremy's brilliant at his own. Matt DeLong, and I'm leaving out all of our staff, but anybody on our staff is just so squared away and has done, I'm sure, what you guys are trying to do. So
Mhm.
if you're going to do yourself a favor, get yourself in the RLT community any way you can. And all it takes is going to reallifetrading.com and signing up for free. Um, that right there is huge. And then just think about the things that I talked about, because fact is, if you have a dream of living a life beyond, what you're living now, don't think yet you're going to be able to just retire and live that life. You're going to have to do some things that get you out of your comfort zone and expand what you're
Mhm.
able to do. And that's getting around people like us. So that's the biggest thing, Trace. I could go on and talk about that, but that's the biggest thing right there.
Yeah. No, Johnny, I appreciate you and I appreciate your words. And I think that we've had a wonderful conversation today. And I'm hoping that our listeners have found it just as valuable as I have. And come on here anytime. I love having you on the show. Love talking to you. And
Love
in the
it.
meantime, folks, I will put Johnny's contact information into the description below. It is once again at the end of the episode. So thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to seeing you next week and having Dan back with us as well. So happy trading, everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.